Canadian Infertility Awareness Week. Blaise is the founder and chair of Footprints, a nonprofit for raising awareness about infertility. Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing really well. Thank you so much for taking the time with us, Blaise. And to start, I wonder if you can take us all back to how this journey all began for you.
Yes, for sure. And thank you for creating space for us to have this conversation. So I really appreciate that. So what happened was about 6 or 7 years ago, I encountered my first miscarriage. And my husband and I were deeply traumatized, shocked, and left the medical center feeling ill-equipped to handle the emotional and the mental health aspects of going through infertility and loss. And, you know, the doctors in the healthcare system did a great job medically and physically, but what happens when you leave those doors? And we quickly realized there was a gap and a lack of resources to really address this issue. You're just supposed to go home and be okay, and that's not reality for so many people across the world, across Canada. So what ended up happening was, because I endured a second and subsequently a third miscarriage, and I was drowning in depression and feeling lonely and feeling shame and feeling guilty that it was my fault. And then my husband, which there's still taboo topics about men and mental health, and they're supposed to be strong for their partners. So he was struggling, and we didn't quite know how to navigate through that. So I ended up writing a book called Heroine, Embrace Your Flaws and Own Your Awesome, to write through my pain and write what it's like to encounter infertility and loss, and incorporate some other mothers' stories in there. And it paved a way for a dialogue. It invited a conversation to say, hey, this is a real issue that's facing so many of us, and no one's really talking about it. And we're all feeling alone and isolated and struggling. So why don't we band together and create some support systems? So from that book was birthed the support system with my OB doctor. He helped me start this Footprints program to create support for families, as well as mental health support bags when they leave the healthcare facility.
I want to talk more about that in just a moment, but Blaise, why do you think the medical system offers so little support for this kind of loss?
You know, I get it. It's not you guys are doing something wrong. It's triage. It's medical. They're taxed. People can't get into ERs for 6 hours. So, I get it. But then that's what I come in and I see the gap, but I want to work with healthcare, and I want to work with them to say, hey, I can pick up the baton where you pass it off because you're no longer responsible for the medical. But I want to educate you guys about the empathy factor, about this is a very sensitive topic, and we need to be able to say one thing to not further hurt people emotionally. And I know they've probably dealt with it 1,000 times, but it's only happening to me in this moment. And I need you to look me in the eye and connect with me on that human level, so then I can cope emotionally and mentally, you know?
You also brought up such a good point, too, about your partner, your husband's experience throughout this all. What did that showcase to you about the supports that are also needed for partners?
Yes, that it's safe for men to grieve. Men grieve, too. We often just look at it as whoever is experiencing the physical loss or the physical components of, IVF or, not being able to get pregnant, and it's always geared to the women. But what about the emotional aspect or physical? Sometimes men are infertile, right? And so often it's like a 30% of men and women. So we really focus a lot of it on the women, but we don't address the men factor, the partner factor. And so that's where we wanted to incorporate and create safety and welcomeness to the partners and say, hey, you're part of this conversation. And then also, it's not just the parents to get pregnant and have a family and expand their family. It's a society issue. So let's normalize this conversation so people know how to broach that topic with everyone in their sphere.
Well, as you mentioned, you started writing, you started sharing your own personal story, and through that you grew this community. Can you tell us more about that community and some of the responses you've heard since?
Absolutely. It's been such an amazing feeling to write something of your own pain, your own vulnerability, and risk that, and start a conversation that no one's really talking about, and is this taboo, and to see it be such welcoming of parents, of society, of culture, and say, hey, and it's like Me Too 2.0. It's like another version of that, being like, yeah, us too are struggling. We don't know where to go, and we feel like a lone island. So from that, we developed this Footprints initiative that just created support group meetings, peer support group meetings. Couples came. My first one had 10 couples, and I was just amazed that men came and felt safe to talk about their feelings and experiences. And then it just grew from that. We partnered with the healthcare system in Alberta, where we provide free support bags right on the front line, which then transitioned to Nanaimo, now where I'm living on the island here. So we're giving out free support bags that include a certificate of life, because they count for us. They may not count from the government perspective, but they count to the parents that lost them. Make our angel babies count. And also educating people on reproductive health rights, and just wrapping it in empathy and love and giving that support so they can cope and navigate through this successfully without further damaging their mental and emotional health.
I wonder what your message is, Blaise, to anyone listening right now who themselves is struggling with any one of the number of challenges that can come with infertility.
You're not alone, and I know it feels very lonely and isolating and shameful, so you hide it and you mask it and you put on a face when you go to baby showers and all these things that celebrate what you can't do and you have no control over, but you're not alone. And we're normalizing this conversation and creating safety for you to heal, to share, to connect. And that's the point of life, is human connection and experience. And one way or another, we can all relate to pain and struggle, whether it's infertility or something else. So when we can get to that juncture that I can relate to somebody else's pain and empathy, then I connect with you. And then I want to fight for your cause because I care about people hurting in my sphere, in my community. And so I just want to tell people, like, you're not alone, and you've got people to hold you up. And this is a conversation we're raising awareness and changing the culture of it to create a society, support society in general.
Blaise, we really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you for having me. If anyone wants a free support bag or more support systems, I have an online resource tool on my website, blaisehunter.com/footprints. Amazing resources for anyone going through this or has questions.
All right, Blaise, you take care. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's Blaise Hunter, who's the founder and chair of Footprints. That's a nonprofit for raising awareness about infertility. And yes, you can learn more by heading to blaisehunter.com/footprints.